The Spot Track Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Spot Track Podcast. I'm Kevin Sylvester along with Paul Peck and Mike Giannetti, the founder of Spot Track. Of course, we're presented by Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment. We've been telling you they empower professional athletes and entertainers with knowledge they need to make the best decisions about their finances and wealth. They give you the information. Learn more. Visit morganstanley.com/GSE. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. We've got basketball today. We've got a running back to talk about, and as always, quarterbacks, Mr.
Always
Peck.
quarterbacks, right? Somewhere along the line, the conversation always comes back to quarterbacks.
It's been a few weeks off. We have to get back into what the people
we
want,
do.
right?
By
Yes,
the way,
we
are
do.
you allowed to wear a Syracuse? I mean, it's your
It's my alma mater.
It's your alma mater, but you call games for UB.
Yeah,
Is it
well,
in your contract you're supposed to wear Bulls gear?
You
or-
weren't supposed to make that public.
We're on the radio here, Kevin.
That's okay. No, it's okay. You're allowed to wear alma mater, no matter who
I
you
agree.
work
That is
for.
true.
I agree.
You went to Syracuse. I'm just jealous. It's a nice looking shirt. Okay, let's talk about Kawhi Leonard. We're recording this on the morning of Game 3, which is going to be out in Golden State. Series tied at 1 game apiece, and it's something that's going to be talked about a lot, along with Durant and Klay Thompson. By the way, 2 injured Warriors who are to be free agents, and we'll see if how those injuries factor in to the rest of this postseason.
By the way, if the Warriors, if those guys continue to stay injured and the Warriors win this series, now the discussion will be how great they really are.
Everything you're talking about is the reason I had to open the show with this.
this
There's
is great
There's like
stuff.
45 storylines that just write themselves, right? I mean,
Yes.
they're injured free agents. We haven't even talked Kawhi yet, which is what we're going to talk about, right? But if Golden State wins, regardless of how they win, even if Klay comes back and whatever, are they the second best basketball team of all time now? Right?
To the Bulls, you're talking about?
This is the second best dynasty of all time,
Sure.
right?
You know what? You know what jumped out at me?
I don't think there's any question about that.
What jumped out at me is some of the guys they have on their bench that they may rely on now. You know, when you see an Andrew Bogut go in the game, you're like, man, I remember that guy. He was pretty good. And what it says to me is quite the tribute for those players who were willing to be on the bench on a great team and bury their egos because likely, if everybody stays healthy, they're not playing very much. But now look what happens. All of a sudden, they may need them to get themselves to a championship.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Livingston, Iguodala, Boogie Cousins. I mean,
Cook, the three-point shooter, Jerebko, all these guys are
Well,
all making contributions.
okay, yes. There's a connection to Western New York and Jerebko.
That wasn't why I brought it
no,
up.
but he's a journeyman player.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
but he's
Anyhow.
helped contribute a little bit during the
Sure.
finals.
Well, yeah, he wouldn't be on the court if they didn't feel he could contribute. But that's like it's like if I were playing a best ball with Tiger Woods, man, I'd look pretty good.
That one shot you had.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got one hole in me, Tiger. All right, you take the other 17.
But as the stars fall and their level of play doesn't, that to me that's quite a tribute to the roster management and to the players
Well-
again who know there's not likely a lot of chances of them playing.
But it's in a series, a short-term thing. Long-term injury over season, damaging. In the short term, in a series, guys step up. They play above their level. They're able to do so. You see it all the time in the playoffs. You see it all the time in NFL playoff games. You see it in Major League Baseball. Like when Kevin Mitchell came out of nowhere for the Mets way back in the day, right? You see it like, where did this guy come from? Nobody knows much about him. There's a ton of scouting. He didn't play a lot during the season.
At all.
But actually, it's different with the Warriors because those guys do play a lot because they
rest the other
Yeah,
guys.
they rest the other guys, you know?
Pretty smart, isn't it?
They idle. Very
Pretty
smart.
Yeah,
Very
they know-
smart.
everybody knows their role.
Kawhi Leonard, though. Let's focus on him, money, country,
Canada, yeah.
sneakers. There's a whole lot that goes on here, Mike. Why don't you
There is.
explain?
I'm sort of rehashing an old story, right, to sort of bring us back to today. But the Kawhi Leonard calendar year has been pretty interesting, right? I mean, that's to say the least. He gets traded, and then almost immediately who is this guy? Where are we coming from? He took a year off with San Antonio, a franchise that didn't have these kind of issues, right? This is like the Patriots having their issues right now with these suspended players, right? We don't really know what to feel because things are getting a little weird. And that's what happened last year in San Antonio. You know, Popovich couldn't rein this guy in. So who is Kawhi Leonard? Now he's in Canada. Maybe he goes and we forget about him. No, right? And a lot of smart people, not myself included, saw this as this is best case scenario for him. They knew it last July. This could be the thing that makes him go. And it was. Look at it. We're here. But let's put a stop on it for a minute. 2 months after he's traded, September 30th is sort of that day that all of these high-profile players have marketing deals that end, right? That just happens to be the day of the year that the sneaker deals and the big marketing endorsements sort of end. The contracts have to be renewed. He had a Jordan Nike brand all through San Antonio, his rookie years in San Antonio, and it ended 2 months after he's traded to Toronto. And if you think about that, that's really interesting, right? Because if you're Jordan Nike and you've got this guy who just sat out a year, was injured, maybe has some mental health issues, all those things combined, and now he's going to Toronto. Now he's going to Canada, where from an NBA standpoint, that's been sort of, a lost desert, right? I mean,
sure.
They haven't won. They've had some superstars, but again, it's been sort of cloudy, right? It's, to say the least.
It just gets, because it's Canada, and the ratings don't count. They're not on network TV a lot. They're not a team that's always talked about as much.
Well, and Nike had two when they first came out, right? McGrady and Vince Carter, right?
Yep.
Two megastars.
And DeRozan did get a deal with them there,
right?
So they do have, a history of signing endorsements up there. But I think all things combined with Kawhi Leonard's situation last July and then him going to Toronto, it really they decided that his brand was damaged. Okay, so the deal they offered him was 4 years, $22 million, which nice chunk of change.
Right.
He was coming off much less off his rookie deal. He was making like $500,000 a year off his rookie sneaker deal. So it was a big step up. $500,000 to $5.5 million, big step up. But this is a top 10 player in the league. We thought at the time, obviously we know now, anyone top 10 in the league was 10 million plus. Nike's max with the Jordan brand was 10 million a year. So they essentially said, you're worth half of our max brand, okay? He obviously turned that down. He went shopping elsewhere. He landed on New Balance. And the reason I wanted to bring this up today is I thought that was extremely smart. I thought that was extremely smart.
On their part or on his part?
Everybody. New Balance, and I didn't know this. I sort of assumed it, but I didn't know it until I started to research. They're almost nothing in the U.S. I mean, they're an afterthought in the U.S. in terms of their following, their marketability, all of that. They're less than 10% of their business is done in the United States. They're a global brand. The people that follow New Balance, wear New Balance, sort of jump on that bandwagon are generally global. And there's nothing more global than Toronto.
No,
I mean that. I mean it's one of the major international airports in the world.
And just for people listening to this who may be in other parts of the country, we have the benefit of where we live here to be about an hour and a half from Toronto. So we get a feel for it.
2.5 hours.
Toronto is depends on how you drive. Yeah, Toronto is it's the third largest city in the in North America. I don't know what the number.
Mexico City's number one in North America.
It's a huge city. It is New York. It is equivalent to New York City in so many ways. It's an incredibly diverse city.
Yes.
That's a relatively new, because Canada's immigration is much, much different than the United States. And it is the New York City of their country. So what I'm trying to say is, don't think of it as Toronto, the city. Think of it as sort of the belle of the nation in a lot of ways. So when you're a star in Toronto, you're a star in a country. So to your point, Mike, being a big star in Toronto and an endorsement deal is not just for that city; it's for that country.
That's the point. Yeah, it's a worldly sort of endorsement.
That's correct.
And maybe more importantly, Toronto, I didn't know this either, the Raptors are the fourth biggest market in the NBA because of everything you just said. I mean, the reach is huge. It may not be the same kind of people reaching the Lakers and the Knicks, but it's from a more global standpoint, it's just as big. So this was a miss by Nike, in my opinion. This is a miss. They should have seen the tea leaves with Kawhi Leonard and figured out that he just wasn't fitting there. But he was going to a spot where this was certain to work. Like I said, there were a lot of smart people that really thought this was going to be a home run, and clearly it is.
All right. Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate from Nike's perspective. Does Nike need Kawhi Leonard?
It's interesting.
They have so many athletes.
Yeah, this is only a problem because
players,
he's in the finals right now, right?
That's correct. Yeah, and I think Nike probably looked at it like, well, he's going to Toronto, and that's. I don't know what percentage of the U.S. watches Raptors games, but because he had a great season, does the Freak have Nike?
Yeah, good question. I'm not positive.
Not
positive.
All right, we should probably look that up here in a second. But to me, it was great move by his agent, right? To go out and find an alternative. Maybe had an alternative prior to turning down Nike's deal. And thinking globally here with New Balance. New Balance, for a lot of people listening, just think of, well, that's my shoes my grandfather wore, right? Right? Goes, no, I'm just like, my first experience with New Balance were, these big canoes my dad wore, right? That were comfortable, I'm using quotation, running shoes. I actually had a pair of New Balance basketball sneakers eons ago. They were fantastic. I've had a couple pairs of New Balances. By the way, New Balance, I'd like a pair of your golf shoes. You can send me those. I'd love to check those out. But they've been great. They make unbelievable shoes. They really do. But as Mike mentioned, 10% the U.S. I get it. I see it why, because of the Nike, Adidas, what they put on there, Under Armour with Steph Curry, right?
Sure, and they're growing interest in that business. How much of this, Mike? I think you go ahead. You got a fact here.
I've got the Giannis numbers. He is with Nike, and he just re-upped with them at $9 million a year.
Okay. Which is, smart by Nike because, that guy's
by the way,
every highlight.
Are the sneaker numbers on Spot Track as well, too?
They're not, and
because you're finding this very easily, so I'm like, that seems rather logical, doesn't it?
I've had some questions about that, so we'll see if I can find
All right.
27 hours.
By the way, do they still make Starberries?
I don't think so.
He's speaking of global superstars.
Huge in China.
This guy just kept going and going.
Right.
Yeah, he
probably made more money in China than he did in the U.S.
There was no money back when he played.
Right.
Yeah, no question.
Here's the other point I was going to make. We all know that Kawhi is a reluctant superstar, right? Is that the best way I can describe it? He's not seek the headline.
Yeah, self-imposed.
He does not. He just personality-wise, he just is that a reason why Nike may have not wanted to combine with the Canadian part of it, or is that, that has to be part of any sneaker company's decision, doesn't it?
But they offered him a $5 million a year raise.
They did.
Correct?
They did.
I mean, how is that insulting?
It's not.
Okay.
He just deserved more.
Right.
That's all.
Okay.
And what's funny, Paul, is I did some research on this, too, because the term deadpan personality was thrown around the internet like crazy with him, which I loved, because he does this on purpose. He's sort of the Belichick at the microphone, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you anything, and I don't really need to give you anything. But New Balance just launched this kind of sort of set of video commercials, maybe social-only commercials, really playing into this. So he's not this flashy guy. He's sort of that Mike Trout, which we've talked about here, right? Well, rather than put him on, a circus commercial and try to make him look like this fun guy, it's a black and white commercial where he's solemn,
not smiling at any point.
It's I'm a serious guy. This is a serious sneaker. These things can work together and be great.
It's a great marketing
perfect.
approach.
Like I said, they really nailed this. Whereas, maybe Nike tries to put him into a fun situation and put him out of his character. New Balance has not done that. Like I said, everything right now is working for him.
All right, so how does that translate into next season and Kawhi's decision whether to leave Canada or go play for the Clippers?
Exactly. So the point here is, I think he's got to stay. That's part one of this. So let's say he's staying. So how can Toronto make this work? I did some.
They already offered him. Somebody already offered him free rent.
That's
in an
right.
Apartment,
that's right. That's part of it. And the ancillary
in
stuff
downtown
aside,
Toronto, that's a sizable amount.
Right.
But somebody will find a way to tax that.
You want to rent to own in Toronto, though, don't you?
Yeah.
Here's what I want to talk about very, very briefly. There's one vice that really everybody should be using right now, but I think Toronto specifically should be using with Kawhi Leonard, and it's the signing bonus. All right? I did some tax research, which, man, nothing better than that on a Tuesday night. But
by the way, I loved our friend Robert Raiola's tax look at James.
I saw
from
that.
Jeopardy.
Yep. I saw he was quoted in
some
stories about what the tax hit was going to be on Holzhauer's.
Yes, check that out.
$2.5 million
at Sports Tax Man. Check that out.
Yes.
On Twitter. That's
okay.
Good stuff.
We digress. Go ahead.
But similarly, yeah. So there's the signing bonus is the way that Toronto can sort of say, we can do this. We can make it work. The numbers aren't going to be as great as the Clippers, right? LA or any of those other teams that want you. But we can make this work so that it's close and beneficial, too. So they can offer him a maximum 15% signing bonus, which on his deal is going to be about $29 million. Okay, so That's going to drop his salaries down because maximum salaries are slotted and they're 5% increases from there. That's just how it works. So he gets a chunk of that money up front as $29 million into a bonus, which is a good thing anyway because there's probably a lockout looming, right? With all of these sports, this should be something all players in all sports are thinking about right now because if
we need to have a lockout show here.
We do because there's a lot of CBA mess to come here. But get your money now. That's what we're seeing in baseball, right? Get it now. So upfront signing bonus, 15% of his total compensation, that is taxed at a 15% rate in Canada. A signing bonus per Article 16 of the U.S.-Canada Treaty. That's how it's stated.
As opposed to about
53.
53. I knew it was
so
like
it's
48.
A huge jump. So
are we the first sports show to cite the U.S.-Canada Treaty? By the way,
we won't be the last. Don't worry.
Pretty impressive, huh?
Is that well? I don't know. Does that work with NAFTA now in negotiations with Mexico? Anyhow,
this is a global show now. By
yeah.
the way.
Well, hey, money's global, so sure.
But huge.
So 15% as opposed to 53%.
Huge savings.
Okay.
Right. So this is how you start the negotiation.
And that's probably better than he'd get in California?
No question.
Okay.
No question.
So that's a huge advantage.
To me, that's step one of this whole problem. I mean, step one is everything we've already talked about.
Right.
It's working here. This team likes you. We like you. We can offer you, we'll see how it goes. But this, from a structural standpoint of the contract, this has to be part of it. It's very rare. We've seen it with 2 or 3 superstars in the last 10 years. Paul Millsap, Jimmy Butler at Chicago had a signing bonus, but we're talking small, sort of, just hand-me-outs for the initial payout for the contract. This is different. We want to run the contract through a signing bonus and then bring everything down from there because that works financially for you. I think this is a home run. Like I said, I think he's got to stay at this point. There shouldn't even be a discussion of going to the Clippers. I can't even imagine Kawhi Leonard with Doc Rivers' personality. I can't. I just can't. I think the whole situation
in a city like LA where your personality is almost as important as anything else.
And it's not just going to be Kawhi and some players. They're going to bring in somebody else, right? It's going to be Durant or somebody else to go with it. So I just think he's been down that road, and this whole quiet, deadly situation in Toronto was really nice.
Well, and here's the other thing that Canada will do. You mentioned this is a country's team.
Yeah.
Like the Blue Jays. So you have the signing bonus to use that to their advantage. Listen, the exchange rate they should use to their advantage.
Of course.
Your living expenses are going to be lower because you're getting 20% more. You're getting paid 20% more, essentially, in there. But the other part is New Balance, I'm sure, will maybe have some influence on this, and maybe they up it more because of his impact on the country. But there'll be others, if not already, I think businesses, that would step up and say, if you stay, let his agent know we've got this endorsement deal on the table.
No question.
Bell Canada, whether it's Canadian Tire. Canadians are very proud of their teams, of their athletes, and if they adopt Kawhi Leonard, which they seemingly have already, he will be a hero.
Players aside, these playoffs, the term national team seems to be the buzzword, right? That's what we're going to take away from this. That Toronto is not a city's team; it's a nation's team. I mean, look at everybody gets excited during the finals, but it just seems like there's another level to these Raptors fans, right? This Jurassic Park scene. And
yes,
that's going to be
that's now in 10 other cities around Toronto.
It is,
and around the country.
But to Kevin's point, that is extremely marketable. I mean, if that's what's going to happen when that team wins, then you do everything you can do to keep this guy because of that, and you incentivize it with endorsements.
Well, I'll have a better take on this next week.
Yeah,
when we record again, because I'm going to cover the Canadian Open for PGA Tour Radio when we're done recording. I'm heading up there, and Game 3 is tonight. The day we record this.
So you'll be in Canada for it.
There's a Golf Canada dinner that I'm attending, and then I'm sure we're all either going to stay or go somewhere else, and I'll see what the scene. We're staying in Hamilton, Ontario, and I'll see what the scene is around the Raptors. I'm sure the whole city will be ready to sit down and watch that Raptors game.
The last thing I thought of that you brought up, Mike, is what Kawhi Leonard gets by playing in Toronto is all the benefits of an incredibly large, cosmopolitan, big money city without all the attention that goes with it. I mean, if we're going to equate the largest city in Canada versus the largest city in the United States, Kawhi Leonard probably wants no part of ever having to play in New York, even though the benefits of being in a big market like that would equate his level of stardom. He probably wants no part of all that attention. In Toronto, he can probably get away with that.
Well, you know what's funny is all year long, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and even Klay Thompson have had to answer, where are you going? What are you doing? 12 months later, right? Because of accessibility.
Right.
Because the media's just happen to be there. Nobody's happening to go to Toronto to ask Kawhi Leonard how it's going. Number one, they know he's not going to answer. Number two, it's kind of a pain in the butt, right? They're not going to make a quick trip up north. So, yeah, he's sort of blocked off from the annual minutia, the daily minutia that these other
really
players
like
have to go to. How could anybody not?
Right.
Right. He might like that. You know, the one thing about New York, though, you can blend in New York. You can, because there's so many stars and actors and everything in New York.
You can, but if the Knicks start winning,
right? But I just remember,
but if you're a sports superstar in New York, it's a lot harder to do.
Well, here's the
or put it this way: a guy that gets signed with expectations to be the superstar.
I was stunned Chris Drury signed with the New York Rangers when he's a free agent. When he left Buffalo as a captain here, I couldn't, because he did not like doing media, hated it. I was team media, still hated it.
That crazy Buffalo media.
Right, yeah, exactly. Wow. And I'm like, wait a second. You went to the number one media market in New York where, but it was, first of all, he grew up as a Rangers fan as a kid, wanted to play there. And secondly, it was like, you can blend in New York.
Well, speaking of, to put a bow on it.
You can walk down the street and you can go to the grocery store in New York, and some people may not know who the hell you are or not care.
You're right. You can hide.
Yeah.
I live there. You can hide away when you want to. But,
right.
To put a bow on this, with hockey, it's not unprecedented what I'm proposing here for Kawhi Leonard. John Tavares just did this, right? He went home to Toronto. He signed his major contract extension. It's a 7-year, $77 million contract. $71 million of it is signing bonus.
Huh.
Yes.
He's making minimum salaries, and that's lockout protection. That's tax protection. I mean, he gets to claim all of that back on his U.S. returns because of that 15%.
Same ownership group, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's correct.
MLSE,
they know what they're doing.
So they know what they're doing, yes. Before we're going to transition to football here, but I want to tell you about Dynasty Owner. We've been telling you about Dynasty Owner each week. It is the first Dynasty salary cap fantasy sports game that not only plays the game each week, but you get to use contracts and salaries. You'll find them right at spottrack.com. It gives you the power to be both coach and GM. So when you're trading, you're not just trading player for players, but Dynasty Owner, you can acquire draft picks or Dynasty dollars. It's the virtual currency used to play the game. You rack those up each week, whether you win or lose, carry them year to year. So think about this. How many times have you benched a guy? I like this matchup, and the guy goes off, right? I mean, or the cornerback gets injured and the receiver takes advantage of the backup and comes in. Don't worry. Dynasty Owner, your bench will earn you a percentage of that performance each week. Listen, it's the first game combining week-to-week fantasy sports with long-term ownership GM strategy. Stop playing fantasy sports. Own it. Quick, get in. Go to dynastyowner.com. Sign up for the 2019 beta draft. Do not pick Todd Gurley.
I didn't know how you were going to transition.
Do not pick Todd Gurley.
Or pick him and put him on your bench just in case.
Get some bench points from him, right, when he gets his third down touchdowns.
But he's going to cost a ton of money.
He is.
That's the problem here. There's an issue here with Todd Gurley and what they've come out and said, and what many or all football fans suspected right in the playoffs. There's something not right here.
We all sort of knew it, but maybe the Rams didn't. Is that what it seems like right now?
Well, nothing to see here. It's like seeing a naked gun. Nothing to see here. There's bombs exploding in the back. I mean,
yeah, that's exactly what this was. Look, I'm not gonna rail on the Rams. I'm not gonna rail on Todd Gurley for being injured, or we don't even know what's going on. Right? Some sort of degenerative knee issue.
Yeah.
Arthritis at age 25. It's all crazy. It's terrible. It's sad. But it's not any better on the contract, right? I mean, the contract's not changing. They gave him 4 years, $57.5 million. They practically guaranteed $45 million of that, which means he's getting it. I mean, he's getting 45. He's probably getting $49 million. All right, at the end of the day, which is the cost over the 4 years over the last 18 through 21 here. He made $22 million last year. He had a great year until the playoffs hit and this knee situation really flared up. He certainly looked to be worth every dollar of it, but here we are. And the structure of this contract is one of those structures that I raise my eyebrows every time because it's scary. It's scary in this sport to do what the Rams did with Todd Gurley, especially at that position, right? We live in Buffalo. We saw this happen with Marcel Darius, where the Bills structured his contract in this similar manner. Darius had some off-the-field issues. He sort of decided not to try too hard on the field for a couple of years.
Really?
He did. He did. I don't know if you paid attention.
Oh, yeah.
And somehow we were able to, the Bills were able to trade him to the Jaguars. So that worked out, from that standpoint. He's still, having a nice career in Jacksonville. This is not going to be that situation. I mean, if you've got a knee injury and you're a running back, I don't care if you're 25 or, 30, nobody's going to take this contract off the Rams' hand. And there's $18 million guaranteed right now on it. No questions asked. He's got $35 million of dead cap right now. He's going nowhere.
So you're saying your issue with this was that he was given a contract to a worthy of a player who is 100% healthy with no questions about his physical condition and no expectation that he wouldn't maintain the high level through the length of the contract. Is that your quibble with this?
That's exactly right, and I'll break it down here. To even step above that, Paul, this is the kind of contract only a quarterback should get, truly. I mean, the structure of this contract is quarterbacks only, and maybe not even that, right? Here's what happened. $22 million last year. He got a $21 million signing bonus and a $1 million salary. That's it, okay? No big deal there. It's this year where it gets murky. In March of 2019, his 2019 salary, his 2020 salary, and a 2020 roster bonus all locked in. That's what I'm talking about right there, a 2-year guarantee in year 2. So his 2020 is already locked in this past March.
So had they cut him, how much would they have saved?
Before that?
Yes.
They could have cut him with, the 19. They could have cut him with 4.2 times 4, whatever that is. So 16.8.
Right.
$16.8 million they could have cut him with. Right now it's 35.
Dead cap.
Yep.
So
35 versus 16.8. So they had to know something was wrong.
Sure.
Right? On March 14th, right before these guarantees locked in. They had to know something was wrong. But whatever they thought wasn't enough to say, let's get rid of this guy and do that, right? Let's save ourselves $18 million of dead cap. They didn't do it, obviously. So they let those guarantees lock in. Look, if he's not a 3-down back, then he's a very overpaid 1-down back, right?
Which is obviously why we're talking about it, because the news comes out that they're going to scale back his usage and his carry. So now what you're saying is, it like you said, if he's a 3rd-down back, he's 10 times more expensive than any other 3rd-down back.
But let me look at this. Let me play the other side of this. If I'm the Rams and I look at, okay, if we feel we can do what the Patriots did with Rob Gronkowski, if we can
that's about right. You're
idle him, right? And then that second half of the season, he's fresher, and that pushes on. And all of a sudden, we've got the best, if not the best running back in the NFL ready for that push. So we have him in the postseason, right?
It's going to be fine this year because his cap hit this year is only $9.2 million. Okay, that's tenable. Next year, it's 17.25, and it's going nowhere. I mean, they can restructure that and move some of that money, that cap down the line. They might have to just for management purposes. But next year, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow.
So for everybody listening, explain it. If they had said, okay, man, we just don't think he's going to be the guy anymore that he was. He's not going to justify this money. We can cut him February 27th, whatever, or in March, make him a free agent, and not lock in these bonuses, not lock in this cap. We'll take a $16.8 million dead cap in 2019.
Yep.
And then we're done with it.
That's it.
Then we're done with it.
That's
it. Yeah, that would have probably been.
And not to get too negative on this, but they could also start to look back and say, was this existing before we signed the contract? Where did this all go wrong? Right? Because this was a college injury, maybe that sort of flared up in the NFL. They could have essentially gotten some of that signing bonus back too.
So the big picture on this is something that we've talked an awful lot about in regards to the running back position, which is your point that no running back should ever be given big money. Right? Is this going to be the last straw? If no running back ever gets paid again, will we always say, well, he's just a victim of the Todd Gurley contract? I mean, is this another lesson towards the mistake that teams make by giving big money to the most interchangeable position in the league?
Well, Le'Veon Bell will have something to say about that, right? What happens to him, and then you got Zeke Elliott coming up, right?
Here's the thing with Le'Veon Bell. His guarantees are half of Todd Gurley's. Half, right? And is he arguably a better running back? More diverse, right? I mean, he's more productive, I should say.
If we're assuming he's the same guy he was 2 years ago.
It's really tough to tell.
Even his head coach reportedly didn't think it was worth giving him or anyone else that kind of money at running back.
My point is, it's fine. I think it's a great contract. $52 million, but only $27 million over 2 years. You can let him go after 2 years and $27 million. Who's not going to do that for Le'Veon Bell?
Right. At less than $14 million a year.
This Gurley structure, these $45 million of guarantees, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for this position because this sort of thing happens. It just happens, right? I mean, maybe it's not, as frequent as I'm speaking to here, but it happens. This is the best running back in football, and in 3.5 years, he's done. He's done, and maybe he's productive to some degree, and maybe he still gets 8-9 touchdowns, as a third down back. We've certainly seen that over the years, but I look at it from the financial view always, right? I mean, there's plenty of guys that can do this from a football view and speak to his production on the field, but from a financial standpoint, this is a mess, and this is a mess they didn't have to get into. They could have front-loaded this more. They could have given him more up front to not have to get in that third year. They didn't have to guarantee that 2020 year at all yet. That should be hanging out there. That should be waiting there, right? So this is a structure issue for me, and it's like I said, it's only the kind of contract that a quarterback should be getting these days.
No, it makes sense because of the workload and the physical pounding running backs do take as opposed to quarterbacks, right? I mean, if a quarterback gets hurt, you're expecting him to come back and perform.
Outside of Alex Smith, yeah.
Right. And it's funny, going into this, we were chatting before the show, like, what running backs? Keyjana Carter came up.
Yeah.
When he was drafted in '95, and he his third carry of a preseason game, he blew out tore his ACL. But he had a $19 million contract as a number 1 overall pick, $7 million bonus, which back in 1995 was massive.
Well,
a massive amount of money.
Let's just talk about that in modern times. What happens if this happens to Saquon Barkley this year?
Right.
What happens if week 2 he just blows up a knee? He's fully guaranteed for the next 3 years. Fully guaranteed at
but the money is
$30 million. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Is
signed like 4 years, $30 million.
Because he was because of where
he was drafted.
Yeah.
So signing a guy like Gurley is just as risky as drafting a guy early. Those are the conversations that teams really need to be having right now.
So not only should you never pay a running back, you should never draft one high.
Well, no, I think you should pay him, but you should not pay him like quarterbacks, I think is what Mike's saying. Structurally, yes.
Zeke Elliott's contract needs to be Le'Veon Bell's contract, not Gurley's contract, right? You've got to give yourself an out. You just do. Because Zeke's had injuries. Zeke's had off-the-field issues. He's got enough red flags to where he should never get this kind of structure. Never.
And the other thing is, it's the league is littered with who's this guy who just ran for 100.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Has the game changed so much that the difference between a Zeke Elliott or Saquon Barkley and a guy taken in the third round isn't important enough to ever take a guy or pay a guy that high? We've talked about this before.
Speaking of third round running backs, the Rams took one. Right. At number 70 overall.
And he may equate Todd Gurley's numbers, potentially.
Surpass this year. I mean, he's here for a reason. That wasn't an accident. I mean, you don't take one of the top 5 running backs in the draft when you've already got the best running back in football. They certainly knew something was coming, and I expect there to be a shift of power very quickly.
Wow.
So I think the sum up on that is I think we're moving to the point where you should never draft a running back that high, and then certainly whatever you draft them, they become a star. You should never pay them to that degree because it's just too easy, to Kevin's point, find another one just as good.
You draft a running back, even if you draft
one
high
in the third round every year.
No, but I'm saying, so if you draft a Saquon Barkley, for example, he's playing 4 years for you. Right,
he's there. He's locked in.
Right, I'm saying, but that's what you have to plan on. Right, this is a 4-year thing, and then bye.
Right, and then in the third year of that fourth year, I'm going to draft his eventual replacement in the third round.
It's like the New Orleans Pelicans. All right, he's going to play on his rookie deal. Then we know he's going.
Zion, yeah.
So,
we should already be doing the Zion 2024 watch.
He, by the way, hired an agent. So
he's there.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to quarterbacks here because there are some quarterbacks with pressure on them. We're in the midst of mini camps right now, which, by the way, this is just
the worst.
Stay
off Twitter except for @SpotTrek.
Okay, yes, for all fans out there. You're following beat reporters. I don't care if they're with the local Boone Tribune or the Athletic or wherever, okay? Stop the tweets on, he made a great throw. This is minicamp. I could go out there and complete a few passes. That's all I'm saying.
Here we are. Kevin's playing in the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
What's
I've
next?
taken all Tiger's holes, but I'm just saying the point is, I didn't say in 7-on-7. I'm saying, just in regular drills. But, these reports of, hey, quarterbacks are looking good and this and that. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. All right, anyhow.
Just like an annual catch-up on quarterbacks because, we are having these discussions off-season. We've had discussions that maybe the quarterbacks are locked in for the next couple of years. And I just wanted to see how much proof there was of that pudding. It's about half. It's about 50-50 after I did this research, all right? About half the teams are pretty okay. I mean, we can run down the list here quickly. Are we assuming Arizona's okay? I mean,
you better not.
Do we know?
We don't know. We don't know.
I mean, contractually, he's locked in, but that didn't stop them with Josh Rosen, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So
we don't know.
That's must-see TV.
Yes.
Kyler Murray is must-see TV because if he's terrible, holy cow, right?
It's going to be like there's no in between, right?
No, he's got to be great.
He's boom or bust.
He can't be Drew Brees.
He's a trailblazer or a massive bust.
Oh my God, I can't wait. That's one reason I actually watch football this year.
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but that's one.
Well, I won't be watching the Mets in October, that's for sure. Atlanta Falcons, boy, this was something. Matt Ryan was kind of terrible last year. Like the team went
that way through his career. He's been very up and down.
But man, he was really bad. I mean, really bad. I started to look at some of the numbers. The productivity was bad. Like Joe Flacco after the Super Bowl bad.
Which one would you rather have, Ryan or Stafford?
We'll get to him.
Okay. All right.
That's a great question. That's going to be, the next first take discussion.
They're
going to steal that from you.
They're both paid a ton of money.
Yeah.
A ton of money to be
for questionable levels of performance.
Matthew Stafford needs a 30 for 30 on his contractual situations. they had to pay him twice because of their cap mess. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like they were in such cap
to
hell
restructure him, right?
that they had to restructure him and give him a ton of money. Twice.
I think both players are the Bernard Kings of the NFL. Guy could score a ton of points, but what did he ever win? All right, let's get the Ravens are really interesting because I stopped myself when I wrote down that Lamar Jackson is actually removable after this year, but he is, and you know why? Because they didn't draft him number 10 overall, right?
And that's the discussion the running backs need to be having. That's where all teams like Josh Jacobs with the Oakland Raiders, 24th overall, perfect. Because if you get 2 years and you say we don't, you can get rid of it,
right?
These aren't fully guaranteed contracts at the end of the first round. That's why Lamar Jackson is sort of in that scenario. If he's not great, if they can't build this offense around him, they should move on. They should be done with it because contractually it's not a lock. And there's nothing more important, right? I mean, you can't waste
another
2 years.
Trailblazing quarterback that I'm very curious to see how defenses. We saw how defenses reacted in the playoffs against him.
Yeah.
Now the teams have had a whole in the AFC North have had a whole offseason to prepare for him. I believe the owner came out and said he's not going to run as much as he did. So I'm really curious to see whether Lamar Jackson is a trailblazer or a guy that eventually people figure out can't play it the way it's supposed to be played.
So, yeah.
Ooh.
Paul, hang on a second.
That's a hot take.
Yeah.
Ooh, hot take. Flames.
We'll edit that out.
Same thing with tweets, Paul, here in the spring. You're not going to run as much. Really? What happens when, pass protection breaks down? He's running. Same thing with Allen with the Bills. He's going to go because they're going to make plays.
You know who else is going to run? Did you see this?
Mahomes is going to run.
Daniel Jones.
Dan Jones,
yeah,
right?
Move.
You know what happens when you run? You get hit by really big, strong guys.
Only once.
Yeah, well, it only takes one, but how many guys miss? Listen. The Tom Brady doesn't run much, and he wins. So that's why they're all pointing to that. And
Tom Brady, Drew Brees, a lot of guys don't run much.
I'm just saying it's easy for the coach to say he's not going to run, but when instincts need to take over. He's gonna make plays by escaping hits and making throws or making big runs, and people will be like, wow.
I'm a skeptic on this, and I will take this skeptic role to my grave in that I refuse to ignore the fact that the great quarterbacks in NFL history are guys that have not run. And there have not been a
Steve
lot
Young?
there have not been a lot of quarterbacks who were primary or equal runners who have ever had any huge level of success.
But
Steve Young ran when he needed to run, but passed most of the time.
what did I just say about Lamar Jackson? He's
Here's the
going to
thing,
run
though.
when he needs to run.
Yeah, but he
And
hasn't
Allen.
proven that he can pass from the pocket yet.
Here's the thing, though. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen. Contractually, if they get blown up and they're on the sideline for 8 weeks,
They lose money.
no.
Oh,
They're fully
they're
guaranteed.
but
So that's the risk those teams are taking. Baltimore's got no risk here.
right.
If Lamar Jackson's terrible or gets crushed and he's out, it's a pretty easy cut because of where they drafted him. So you got to give them credit, right? Because they had Joe Flacco. They decided we're gonna a year early. We're gonna find our guy, and we're not gonna do it in the top 10 because that's where teams get hurt.
To Paul's point, just for validation for Paul's point, John Elway ran a lot when he was young.
Yeah.
And then he learned to
That's
be
right.
a pocket passer, and part of it was his knees were kind of shot too, so he couldn't run as much.
And I bristle a little bit when we go back that far with those comparisons, because defensive players are much different and much more athletic now than they ever were. The kind of players that Steve Young and John Elway were always faster and more athletic than most of the guys that were trying to stop them. That's not the case anymore. It's not.
That's probably fair.
That is
So
fair. That's probably
that's where my point is, and I always sort of resort to an RG3 discussion, that he was one of the first quarterbacks that was sort of allowed to run the option and run like he did in college, and he didn't last because he couldn't avoid getting hit, and when he got hit, he got hurt, and then when you forced him to say, hey, RG3, don't run anymore. You're too valuable. Stay in the pocket. He kind of went, that's not really what I do. And he ultimately never had any success at that.
Well, he blew out his knee, and they put him back in a game.
Well, but regardless of that, he blew out his knee because he was running too much.
You know who
Cam Newton's
Lamar
a great
Jackson's
example.
backup is, right?
what?
You know who Lamar
RG3.
RG3.
Yes, I know that.
Cam Newton's a great, probably the best
This
example,
is the best.
right?
This is the best conversation to have with this discussion. Cam
Yeah.
Newton.
Cam Newton, right.
He's sort of Kawhi Leonard right now. He kind of went away in 2018. He's injured. These injuries are not going away. They are coming back and back and back.
He's been injured more than
Yes.
a good quarterback should be because he runs. He's
No,
also
he's-
much bigger than any of these other guys, too.
He's made a concerted effort to stay in the pocket.
He has.
in the last couple of years.
Right.
So early on, he ran a lot.
He has, and the injuries have still come back. So that's what I
Correct.
mean.
And his
There-
effectiveness
there's
has been a little more questionable, too,
Yeah.
since he's not been the kind of threat that defenses needed to prepare for when they were worried about him running.
2 years left on that deal. It's sort of a non-guaranteed situation. I mean, they can get out when they need to. If he's great, they probably give him a new deal, right? I mean,
about Cam.
This is
Yeah.
the time. Yeah, Cam Newton. If this is the time, so it's a big 2019 for Cam Newton and Carolina in general, just to sort of see them back on the radar. But yeah, his health and production are big issues now leading up to 2019. So that's one to watch.
I love your note on the Bears here with Chase Daniel, another $6 million.
$6 million. Just keep adding on, baby.
Guy's an ATM.
Unbelievable, right?
That's awesome.
Just keep watching Mitch Trubisky do his thing.
Dalton's interesting with the Bengals.
Where do you guys stand on this?
Oh, I think he's
Not a lot of people think Ryan Finley is the next man up in Cincinnati. So
I like Andy Dalton. I'm just a fan. I think he's a much better quarterback than people think he is.
Why is he accepting 2 years, $34 million then? Because that's what's left.
none of it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right?
Why would he accept $17 million a year? I mean, he hasn't done much, but he's been productive. They win.
That's a good. I can't even sort of fake an answer to that
Right.
question. I
What are
can't.
you saying? Why is he accepting that instead of some guaranteed cash or more money?
Or somewhere else?
Why isn't he saying if I'm the guy still, then you got to pay me? Well, he shouldn't be playing on 2 years, $34 million right now. He shouldn't. This is a player-centric generation. I mean, he's got to step up and get himself another signing bonus here. Truly,
I mean,
get rid of me.
He's made the playoffs,
He's an above-average quarterback.
Correct.
He's not elite.
right?
He's not great.
Is he better than Matt Stafford?
I'm not going there yet. I'm not going there.
Hold that. Put a pin in that question.
All he has to be is better than Ryan Finley right now, right? On that roster.
I'm sure he will be.
But if I'm him, I'm in the negotiating room right now saying, lock me in. Let's go. Give me a signing bonus. Guarantee me the next year and a half, at least 2 years, and then go find my replacement after that. But if he's the guy, then the contract says otherwise right now, in my opinion.
That is close to a... Well, actually, the money's a whole lot less, but I was thinking of his contract in Buffalo. It's close to a Ryan Fitzpatrick contract he had in Buffalo.
Yeah.
It was like $14 million a year.
Yeah.
Or was that with the Jets?
The contract says, we like you, but not really.
Right.
That's what Andy Dalton's contract says right now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I'm going to date you, but I'm not going to put the ring on you.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Exactly. You're a placeholder right now.
Dallas.
Yeah, that's the big question.
Kind of funny
right?
how that conversation's trailed right off, hasn't it?
Yeah, it sure has, hasn't it?
I mean, where's that new contract for Dak Prescott? Is he playing out a $2 million salary and then getting franchise tagged?
Depends how he
I
plays,
think there
right?
has to be more show it, more prove it. And the Cowboys, I think, would be smart to make him show it and prove it.
I think they're struggling with who, when, and where.
To pay.
Yeah, because they need to figure out who's going to get the tag next year.
Right.
Zeke,
that's
Cooper,
the or him.
Yeah, that's the conversation. And it's probably who demands the most right now is going to get thrown to the wolves.
I think it's a lot of you. We know we like you. We know you've been good. You need to be better than good. This is the year. Everybody seems to be back and healthy. Go and show us. Go prove us. And knowing the Cowboys, if he gets off to a good start in the first 5 or 6 games, that may happen during the season.
Yeah, boy, the Cowboys, they have a conundrum here because...
Bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's,
It'll be worse if he continues to play sort of the way he's played, which is okay. Then what do you do?
You know what's funny?
I like Dak Prescott.
Isn't the guy
way.
we love the most Zeke Elliott, though? Of
As
all
a
of
player,
these players?
as a player, sure, yes.
And he's probably the last guy on this totem pole right now?
Maybe.
Here's
he just did a nice gesture, by the way. There was someone from his hometown.
I saw this.
Yeah, he paid for the funeral and all the stuff.
Really nice.
And he didn't want anybody to know about it, and the media found out about it, and they still said it,
Of course.
even though he didn't want it out.
Here's another scenario, and
Anyhow.
it might be a little bit out there, but Dak Prescott could be waiting for Carson Wentz. Because if Carson Wentz gets $35 million a year, which is just crazy, but it very well could happen, then Dak Prescott's getting 30. But right now, Dallas probably isn't paying Dak Prescott 30, even though his agents and everybody are floating out that 30's the number, right? We all know, and my calculations tell you, he is not worth 30. He's just not worth $30 million.
Is he worth 20?
26, 27.
And the franchise tag should be what?
26.
Okay.
So all of those numbers sort of line up. That's what I mean. Dallas can sort of wait if they want to, but if Dak is waiting for Carson Wentz and Carson Wentz gets 35, look out.
He's Kirk Cousins then, right?
He's Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins.
He's Kirk Cousins if they choose to franchise tag him. They could franchise tag Amari Cooper. They should franchise tag Zeke Elliott, but if they do that, they know he won't play. They know he won't play on a franchise tag.
He'll pull Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah. So they're a mess.
But then we just talk about not franchise tag, not paying. Well, the franchise tag, just a 1 year. Here's your salary. There's no
It's
structure.
actually perfect.
It is perfect.
For running backs,
perfect.
it's perfect,
It's
right?
guaranteed. It's good money. Go play.
It's a 1 year deal.
Yeah.
And if you get hurt, okay, we're done. We're out.
Yeah.
Denver seems to have set this up, right? On the Joe Flacco for a year until Drew Lock is ready.
Is it Joe Flacco for a year? It's starting to feel like he never plays a snap.
I think there's he'll play, but I don't think he makes it. I don't think he makes it through the year as a starter would be my guess. You don't think he starts at all?
I wonder.
I
I think
does.
Drew Lock has a chance to be great. Great. And if he's great,
I'm
got
not
to
ready to
him.
go there.
But I think politically the way they do this is they start Flacco. And,
He has to because he's messed up the quarterback position so many times, John Elway.
Right. And if Flacco plays great, see, it's a win-win for
Is it?
John. Yes, here's the win-win. If Flacco goes in and plays great, you look like a genius signing this guy.
You're right.
If he flops, then hey, we're bringing the new kid in, and the new kid doesn't have the pressure of being the opening starter.
Nor-
It'll happen, Flacco. It'll happen exactly what happened to him last year.
That's right. There you go.
And Drew Lock's contract isn't put me in now. It's not big money.
Yeah.
He's second rounder.
Yeah, they did a nice job with drafting him where they did. They actually acquired that pick, too. It's a really nice situation
All
for
right.
them.
Drew Stafford.
Or Matthew? Yeah, let's
Or
get
Matthew.
to him.
I'm Drew Stafford.
Let's get to Matthew Stafford. Let's not even talk about the money because he can still make a ton of money. What do we think about Matthew Stafford? Is this it? Like, is he playing for his next team right now? Is this a showcase year to be traded after this year?
I thought you were asking like how we're supposed to sum up his career, which is an equally hard question to answer.
He's made so much money.
Big numbers at times. Been a favorite of a lot of fantasy people because he throws for 4,000 plus yards a lot of touchdowns.
He's also tough as hell.
Tough as heck. But he hasn't won. He hasn't won anything.
Bernard King.
Yeah. Well, yes, you're right. Bernard King was one of my favorite young basketball players, by the way. So don't keep insulting it.
Kids, I'm not insulting Bernard King.
No, but you're sort of disparaging him. Put it that way.
Am I? I'm not. I don't mean to.
I think when you say a player's a great player who never won anything, that's a little bit of an insult.
Yeah, but Bernard King had nothing else to win with around him.
Well,
Bernard King was it. There's a reason why he scored 50 every night because he was the only guy who could make a basket. So I'm disparaging his teammates.
Okay, gotcha.
No, what I'm thinking of is a guy who I actually think it's a compliment to Matthew Stafford and not an insult to him. Mm-hmm. I think this is a guy who's got a ton of talent and throws a lot of great passes and hasn't won, and for various reasons. And that's the way I looked at Bernard King. Like, wow, I loved watching him play because a guy could fill it up, and you're like, how come this guy never wins?
Career earnings, Matthew Stafford.
$90 million.
81.
$178 million. He's ninth. He is ninth all time.
178?
He's ninth all. He's right behind Matt Ryan. He's ninth all time. I'm telling you, this guy has been paid because of the Lions' cap mismanagement. He's been paid and paid and paid.
Oh my God.
He was drafted before the rookie wage scale, so his first contract was huge, but then he's just been paid and paid and paid.
Holy smokes.
That's what I'm saying. This guy's winning. He doesn't matter. He's winning.
That's right. He is winning.
Is winning all over the
Charlie
place.
7 4,000-yard seasons. I wanted 7 4,000-yard seasons. Last year was 3,700, almost 3,800.
I think he's going to look great for Vegas next year. That's what I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Good.
He really is. We could do a whole show on Matthew Stafford because he really is one of those quarterbacks of our generation and lifetime that you will go right down the middle of people think he's good, people think he's great, people think he stinks.
People think he should have played baseball.
It's, and again, and then there will be people who will be supporters of Matthew Stafford who will say, well, what did you ever give him to work with?
Yeah.
And you could line up 15 groups of people with 15 opinions on Matthew Stafford, and they'll all make good arguments for all of them.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's just the unknown right now, but he's made $180 million.
Wow.
He's all happy.
That's good amazing. For him.
Not even worth talking about Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's getting paid for the next 4 years, whether he wants to or not. I thought Deshaun Watson's an interesting one. We don't hear anything about Deshaun Watson. Why? Isn't he kind of good?
I felt like we heard more about him last year.
Because of the injury.
Because of that spurt of the 6 games.
Do we not like him?
No, I think he's pretty
how do
good.
You not like him?
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, he's extendable after this year. He's going to be paid a ton of money. But he's one of your guys, Paul.
A runner, yeah.
He's actually reckless. He's maybe the most reckless.
But he's also
decent
guys. In the pocket. I think he's better than Lamar Jackson.
But
in the pocket.
He hasn't learned to stay. He has not learned to stay in the pocket. I mean, he has taken some hits. Real hits, and if he gets through 2019 healthy, he's probably $33 million a year. I mean, he's that good.
He is good.
So,
Luck staying, right?
I don't know.
No, you don't know.
He was awesome last year, but now he's got another injury. He's injured right now. He's not going to practice probably all summer.
Why would you? If you're Luck,
I love the Indianapolis Colts. I think they're probably the team to beat right now in the AFC, but. He has been so up and down. Are you getting 2 consecutive years out of him? Contractually,
you're starting to get to that point of his age and his wear and tear where you're starting to worry about that a lot.
They still have Brissett, correct?
They do.
If this is one of those down years for Andrew Luck, they can get out of it after this year. So that's one to watch. He's got pressure on him contractually.
Jags fan. I was in Jacksonville when Nick Foles agreed there. Gangbusters.
That's a strong deal. He's getting 3 years out of that deal, and that's maybe scary for him, right? I don't know if he's got 3 years in him.
Mahomes is, come on.
Well, you watch Mahomes because after this year, they can sign him.
Yeah,
and they will,
yeah,
right?
And
they
that's
will.
And that's when the 40. That's when
he
40
sets
million
the
gets
next
thrown
market,
around.
right? He sets the market. Yeah.
That's 40 million if he wants it, probably.
Phillip Rivers is playing till he's 50.
Is he?
He needs to. He's got all those kids to pay for.
That's right.
But why is nobody bending here? The Chargers nor Phillip Rivers have come out and said it's time to pay Phillip Rivers. This is an expiring contract.
Yeah.
Ben got his money. Breeze got his money.
He'll get his money.
Brady's about to get his money.
He'll get his money.
He's going to get it.
I think he's going to get it.
Is it going to be huge?
You know,
This is Matthew Stafford. This is Matthew Stafford.
but
5
A
years
little
later.
better.
5
A little
years
better. I
he's
think.
he's more highly regarded than
He's
than
more highly
Stafford.
regarded. I think he's won. I think they've won a little more, but obviously haven't won a lot.
I don't think they've won that much more at all.
Been to the playoffs more. Been a better team. Better regular season record. I think more consistently.
I guess. I bet stat for stat they're pretty close. I bet.
How
stat
about
for
career
stat they're
earnings
close.
for Rivers to Stafford?
Oh yeah, he's up there. He's above it. He's over 200 million.
Is he really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to be a quarterback, and it's getting better.
Oh my gosh.
My God, Mahomes is going to make that in his next contract, though.
Wow.
Truly. Yeah, it's a good time.
Staggering numbers.
Yeah.
For sure.
You've brought up Jared Goff before as the you think the next benchmark on how quarterbacks get paid or don't get paid.
This is a whole new wrinkle now with Gurley, though, because now they've been burned, right? So now they've got a bad taste in their mouth with the Todd Gurley money. Goff better have a hell of a 2019, because if he doesn't, there's going to be talk for not even letting him play out that fifth-year option. I mean, they can get out of that before March 15th next year. It's all in on Jared Goff right now. He's got to be great. The offense has to run through him. He's got to be spectacular, or I think they consider moving on for sure.
And the point you brought up is that does McVay think he's such a quarterback genius that he can just go get the next one and do the same thing?
I think it's worth a shot. I really do. I think that's probably the right way to do it, even if it's bad for the game. I mean, it's terrible for me to be sitting here saying Jared Goff shouldn't get a second contract, but from a cap, unless the cap continues to rise like it does, then it's going to be really tough to keep those guys around.
The Dolphins, what a fun carousel that's
I
gonna
read
be.
today that Ryan Fitzpatrick is handedly outplaying Josh Rosen.
Oh,
Of course he is.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
Of course. he is.
I don't think there's any question about
it's not
that.
week 8, so
I was going to say,
Fitzpatrick is phenomenal.
and you'll keep hearing and reading that till about week 5, and then that'll stop.
By the way, Fitz is going to be a great broadcaster.
Yes, he is.
he's
At the end
a
of his
stand-up
career,
dude.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
great guy, and talk about someone. We talked about this before on the show. He's another one. You'd say his career earnings, you'd be like, what?
I
It's
also
like 40
thought-
million, right?
I also thought it was kind of a nice gesture the way they structured that deal. He gets $1.5 million guaranteed next year, and he's probably not going to be there, right? So that's sort of like a parting gift.
Sure,
That's nice.
yeah,
I like that.
Not a bad deal there. The Vikings. I mean, Kirk Cousins. So much money, and
I mean, do we hate the contract? This is year 2 of it now. Do we hate the 3 years fully guaranteed?
Well, you've convinced us not to hate it because of its length.
I don't hate it at all.
Right.
Because that's exactly right. There's 2 years left. Maybe he bounces back this year.
You're getting typical, mediocre Kirk Cousins play,
Why do
but
we hate
you can
this?
get out of it.
And then there's no dead cap.
Right.
Why do we hate this?
I don't think you should.
They should all be like this.
Right.
what did Brady tweet? Everybody's talking about
Oh,
Brady's tweets.
a line from a Jay-Z song about the first is the best and the last is good, or something about the last. So now everyone thinks that's a hint that this is going to be his last year.
Like he needs money. That's it. That's probably his way of saying, all right, guys, it's time to move this along. I need my signing bonus. It's been 2 years. He's on an expiring contract making $15 million. Can't blame him.
Yeah, he's not playing under 15
No,
million.
he needs
there's no
a
way.
signing bonus. He needs a new
He's
new
Tom
contract.
Freak. He's the GOAT. He is not playing under a 1-year, $15 million deal. No way.
It'd be funny. Just to throw it back in the league's face again. Sign him to like a 10-year deal. You know what I mean? With 2 years guaranteed, but just make it look so stupid with all the fluff at the end of it. Just totally throw it back in the league's face. Like these contracts are ridiculous. I'm playing for 2 more years. Here's my 2 years guaranteed, but I'm going to make it 10 for $300 million. Right? Just make it ridiculous. So we'll see. He's going to get paid in the next couple.
And what
months.
about Breeze?
Who knows? Has there been any player to be more sort of discreet with his situation? I mean, the Saints and Breeze go to like the 27th hour with these contracts. They wait until everything's... The drama is incredible, and I truly don't know who the quarterback for the Saints will be in 2020. Truly. I mean, they signed Bridgewater to a 1-year deal. They put this is Breeze expiring year.
He's willing to sit again when he probably could have had chances to go somewhere and start.
But a 1-year deal.
Right.
Why wouldn't you sign him to a multi-year deal if he's the next guy in line? Clearly he's not. Not yet.
Maybe he wants to wait and see what Breeze is
Yeah,
doing.
I think from Bridgewater's standpoint, he wasn't going to sign a multi-year deal. If he was willing to not go back into the market and sit for one more year because he likes the situation there, then it makes sense for him.
Maybe he's great friends with Anthony Davis and wasn't sure where he's going to be.
Look, Bridgewater had a chance to be a starter right now. He could have gone to any team he wanted to go to, and nobody wanted him.
Yeah, well, maybe he's not that
done?
good.
He must be done.
Yeah, he might not be that good.
Here's a quick tidbit on New Orleans. The deals for Breeze and for Bridgewater had voidable years, which they do that to take that signing bonus and spread it out more.
Yep.
So for dead cap, it counts. When both of those deals expire, Breeze and Bridgewater next year, the 2020 cap will have $25 million of dead cap for those two players.
For the two quarterbacks.
For two guys not even on the roster.
Wow.
That's a lot to swallow.
What are the Giants doing with Eli?
Does he play?
For about same like Flacco for about
Yes.
6 or 7 weeks.
So
they're
he
not a
sticks
good
around?
team, and then at that point, Daniel Jones takes
I
over.
got to be honest. The more I think about this and the more I sit down to this, why is he even on the team?
Because they don't have the guts to
Why,
make
though?
the move that they should have made 2 years ago.
I think the owner wants him on
But
the
they
team.
paid the roster bonus. That's sort of, again, like a parting gift, a little parting gift. Just do it. You save $12 million right now to cut him. Just do it.
I think for a guy...
Should have done it 2 years ago.
I just think for the guy who won 2 Super Bowls, beating Tom Brady, that they're trying to have a way for him to save some face here and to be outplayed with a quarterback in there to come in and play well. I think it's a
He's going
Flacco
to get
situation.
booed off the field week 4. That's no way to go out. Just cut him, hire him as a quarterback's coach, let him train Daniel Jones all summer. That's what he's doing anyway. Let's be honest here.
Sure.
He's going to have a terrible end to this, Eli Manning. They're going to be throwing stuff on the field.
He looked pretty lean, didn't he? Like, in training camp or mini camp. I don't know. I'm like, wow, he looked a little leaner.
I just hate how this has ended for him. And
Sure.
And financially, Giants just can clear a ton of cap space.
Jets with Darnold,
good.
right?
Yeah.
Carr with the Raiders.
I started to look into this one a little bit because, 6 months ago we all sat here saying he's done, right? They're gonna draft Kyler Murray. He's done. Obviously, that didn't happen. They locked in his guarantees. He's only got $3 million of guarantees left on this deal, and it kicks in February 5th, I believe, next year. That's not a lot. That's not enough to say things are going to move one way or another. I don't know how this plays out. You're moving your team. You're going to bring a brand new quarterback in. Or does Carr are we just going to assume that
I think it's a lot of show me again, too. I think there's a lot of back. Can you get back to the guy that you were 2 years ago when you almost won the MVP?
You mean when I had Amari Cooper? No, he's got Antonio Brown, so he's got a receiver.
There's a lot of show me here for him. He's shown us, the world, that he can be a really, really good quarterback. Once. So show us you can do it again.
His brother did that too once.
That's right. That's true. We talked about Wentz with Philly. Pittsburgh, Big Ben is locked in through 2020.
Yeah, that one's weird, right?
Yeah.
Do we like that?
I don't think they like. His teammates don't like.
They
him.
ripped.
Sounds like
they kind of ripped the team up to save him, and man.
Well, kind of the same.
But he's still playing at a high level.
He is.
You obviously, as we talk about, all Breeze and Rivers and all these guys can continue to play closer to 40, if not over 40, at that high level. So as long as he's still playing at that high level, there's no reason to overthink this.
Who the hell is the 49ers quarterback?
This is great, right?
Right?
Garoppolo.
Is it?
Why wouldn't it be?
I mean, it is until it isn't.
Well,
contractually, it's nothing. He's on 1 year cheap deals from here. I mean, that was so front loaded that he's down. He's under Dalton from an annual cash standpoint now. He's under Dalton.
That kid came in, and I can't think of his name here.
Nick
Mullins.
Yeah, Garoppolo's the guy. I mean, he would not have been had he not gotten hurt. He was the guy. Mm-hmm. They traded a second, third round pick for him. I like him a lot too. I think he's going to be really, really good.
I think they're going to run the ball a ton. I think it's going to be a lot of dump passing to the tight ends. That's their strength. They've got like 47 running backs in that roster right now, like 4 All-Stars.
Get to cover them after last year when they got burned by getting them hurt last year.
So
I think Garoppolo is a star. Honestly, I really do.
I think his production is going to match his pay. I think he's not going to be asked to do too much. I think he's not going to be a star because of that. It's going to be Andy Dalton.
All right.
Truly.
Russell, Seattle, good. Tampa Bay
and Tennessee.
Tennessee,
those are the two
right?
teams
Those
to watch.
are totally grouped together.
And here's why they're 2 teams to watch. Well, Tampa Bay sort of exclusively. There's nobody next in Tampa Bay. They did not cover their bases for Jameis Winston. So this is all in on either a great year or a dumpster fire in Tampa Bay.
But there's great quarterbacks coming out in the draft next year, so I don't think they needed to cover their bases.
But they sort of got better, right? They got they're not in tank mode either. That's what I'm thinking. They're going to be like a 7-9 team. That's not going to get you a great quarterback. So I'm not sure they're playing this correctly. Like the Dolphins are playing this correctly, right? We know Fitzpatrick's going to flame out in week 6, like you said, and then they should be in full tank mode after that for one of these quarterbacks. But Tampa Bay might be decent, and that's not where you want to be if you got to rebuild. So I don't know what they're thinking specifically. I mean, Bruce Arians sort of knows what he's doing. They might be great. I mean, he might turn Jameis Winston's career around in a summer here, and that might be a team to really watch, especially with Ndamukong Suh.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I like a lot of pieces on that team. I just think if they need to be bad, they're not going to be.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think they're a middle team with that. If Winston plays great, they'll be a wild card team. Mariota, is he Tyrod Taylor or what?
He is.
Right.
But I love that they got Tannehill behind him now.
Yes.
Because you never know. I mean, that's a pretty good guy to be putting in week 7 if you need to, right? I mean, that could be a rebirth of his career on a better team. So I like what they did there because they clearly don't think Mariota's long-term.
There's a guy who gets hurt often.
Yeah. Because he runs a little bit too much.
Right. Yeah, and just, he played in that Oregon offense.
He never had the arm.
No. And that's showing to me in the NFL. But he's a guy who can manage the game. That'll be interesting. And then Washington.
We're starting to hear some rumblings that Alex Smith is getting healthy.
Which would be a medical miracle.
Yeah. It would be a miracle. But what do you do if you're Washington?
That's where Haskins, I think, starts from day one, right?
Oh, it's not.
I mean, as we keep talking about these rookie quarterbacks, when are they going to start? He's the one to me that I think starts from day one.
I actually think Colt McCoy starts this season. They like him a lot.
I think Colt McCoy versus the other guys we talked about, Joe Flacco, not in the same league in my mind.
If you're Alex Smith, isn't Joe Theismann in your ear every day saying, "Dude, don't go back"? You don't. I mean, that was horrific.
From a like I said, I look at these things through money. He's good. He's done.
Right.
I mean, he's making his money through next year, no matter what happens, whether he steps on the field or not.
Correct.
It's injury guaranteed through 2020. I would not risk that.
I would not risk that. I admire the work to come back, but why would you?
He revamped his career. He was a number 1 overall bust out of San Francisco, flat out bust. Kaepernick took over for him and took off, and he found new legs in Kansas City, and he deserved this contract with Washington. He deserved this sign and trade situation that happened. You got to stop there, though. Like this is where you say, okay, this game has done enough for me. I'm done.
Yeah,
because he deserves the money. It stinks that Washington has to keep that on their cap. And from a team standpoint, that's a financial mess. But I agree with you. Don't even try to come back from this.
Yeah,
don't even try.
I mean, that was gruesome.
You don't need to be a hero here.
That's exactly right. All right. A lot of great stuff there on quarterbacks. Make sure you check out the premium section at SpotTrack.com. Make sure you check out our friends from Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment, for professional athletes, entertainers, giving you that knowledge you need to make informed decisions about finances and wealth. Go to morganstanley.com/GSE to learn more. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. For Paul Peck and Mike Giannetti, I'm Kevin Sylvester. Thanks for listening to the SpotTrack.com podcast.